Hello, I'm Mike Russell from musicradiocreative.com. This video is my Adobe Audition CC for Beginners Getting Started Guide. I'll explain how to get started recording in the waveform view, any audio that you want to record, and then delving into the multitrack to mix lots of different recordings like voiceovers, music, and sound effects together. Let's dive into Adobe Audition CC. Okay, when you first load Adobe Audition CC, this is the screen you will be presented with. So, we want to start by recording some audio into Adobe Audition. First thing to note is there are two different work views in Audition. One is the waveform, there it is at the top, and the second is the multitrack. I'll look at the multitrack later, so first, let's start in the waveform view. Okay, at this point, it's important to explain how the waveform works in Adobe Audition. It is a destructive editing area, meaning any changes you make to the audio are permanent, unless you Command or Control Z to undo those audio changes. To get started recording in the waveform view, just go to File, New, Audio File, and then you'll have some options here to give your audio file a name, so I'll just call it Mike VO for my voiceover. Sample rate is the first option here. Usually you want to be at 44/100 Hz. That's standard for audio recordings. If you're recording for video, you might want to go for 48,000 Hz and maybe even higher if you're working with high fidelity music. Any lower and you'll get a degradation in the quality of audio. So best to stick with 44/100 there. Channels can either be stereo or mono. So if you're recording music or something with audio or jingles, stereo is a good option. If it's just a voiceover, mono is also a good bet. And the bit depth you can leave as default 32 float. That allows you to do all kinds of cool things, including even being able to distort and still not clip your audio. There is obviously 24, 16, and 8, but 32 is the best default setting. Click OK. You get this view here now, and then down at the bottom you'll see these controls, and if you've used anything like a tape recorder or a hi-fi system, you'll recognize play, pause, stop. You've got the rewind and the fast forward buttons. The one we'll want to focus on to get started is this big red record button. When I click this, it'll start recording as long as your audio interface is set up correctly, or whatever you've got plugged in to record with is set up correctly. Before we hit that record button, let's have a look at that. Over in Audition CC Preferences, you want to look particularly at the audio hardware setup here. So make sure your default input and output are as expected. In my case, I'm using a Soundcraft Signature 12 mixing desk. You might want to use the built-in microphone, the mic on your webcam, or something else. Just make sure you've got the right input and output selected. Once you have, go to Audio Channel Mapping, and again, make sure it's mapped to the correct channels. Now, usually, if it's just an internal microphone or a USB mic, there'll only be one or two channels, and it's really easy to assign them. In my case, I'm assigning to channels on a mixing desk, so I've made sure that they are all correct. So now, with that done, we can hit record. Hello, this is Mike Russell with an Adobe Audition CC for Beginners Getting Started Guide. Hit the stop button. You can also hit spacebar to stop recording, and there is the very first piece of audio we've recorded in Adobe Audition. Providing you've set up your outputs correctly, you should be able to hit spacebar or push the play button. Hello, this is Mike Russell with an Adobe Audition CC for Beginners. Now, as you can hear, it's quite a little bit quieter. I was recording at about -18 dB. Usually you want to be tickling between -6 and -3 dB. No worries, we can fix that after recording by going to this volume heads-up display control, and you can just click and drag to the right, and you'll increase the amplitude of your audio, or if you want to quieten it down, drag to the left. So if I drag it up, it's up by a 15 dB boost, and we should hear it louder now. Hello, this is Mike Russell. There's an even quicker way to do that by going into the Favorites menu, normalize to -0.1 dB. That will make it the loudest it's possible for your waveform to be. So there we go. Fantastically recorded and ready to go. If I want to zoom in, I pop my mouse up above on this time bar here. This is showing the time in split seconds and seconds that your audio recording is happening. So you can see here at just about 0.75 seconds, I started speaking, and I stopped speaking at about 7.5 seconds. So if I hover my mouse here and scroll with my mouse scroll wheel, you'll see I can zoom in and zoom out, zoom in and out. Say I wanted to take out a part of my speech, I can just zoom in here and play this bit here. Getting. Say I wanted to get rid of the word getting, and I'm using the spacebar here to playback. If I want to loop this, by the way, I can highlight like this by clicking down and highlighting a piece of audio. Switch on loop mode down here, loop playback. And this is good if I want to kind of really focus in on something. So there you go, loop playback can come in handy. Just remember to switch it off if you don't want it to always be enabled. So I'm going to now select and highlight that word, and then I just hit the delete key and it's gone. So now you've got this for beginners started guide. So without the getting, if I want to undo, Command Z or Control Z, if you're on a PC, it will put the word right back in there. So that's pretty much how it all works. If I wanted to add an effect, obviously the effects that Adobe Audition CC is famous for, I can do this very quickly in waveform view. Remember what I said though, it's destructive, so you're making a change to your audio file by going into Effects menu and choosing from the many effects here. There's compressors there to make your voice sound louder and smoother and nicer. There's delay and echo, the echoey effects. You've got stuff like EQ to increase the high end or the low end on your voice. Modulation is one of my favorites. Noise reduction, reverb, so many others, time and pitching. I'll just show you a basic chorus to show you what's possible here. And we'll go for the acoustic duet. Don't worry about any of these settings here. This is definitely for advanced users. So I'm using the acoustic duet preset inside the chorus effect. When I hit apply, you'll hear my voice doubles up. Hello. This is Mike Russell with an Adobe Audition CC. So that's adding a basic effect in the Adobe Audition waveform. I'm going to undo that now and head into Adobe Audition CC's multi-track view. At this point, it's worth pointing out that multi-track is a non-destructive editing view, meaning any trims, cuts, edits, or effects you put on in the effects rack do not permanently save to the individual audio files that you're editing together inside multi-track. Okay, to start your first multi-track session, which I can then introduce my voiceover into that session, you would go again into File, New, Multi-track Session, and we'll call this one Mic Mix. Okay, give it any name. Again, folder location, where do you want this to save? Template, don't worry about that. Start with none. That's the best way to get started. Again, sample rate at 44100, the same sample rate as you recorded your audio in. Bit depth again can be 32, and the master should be stereo unless you're working in a mono project, but I'd advise stereo certainly if you're mixing in multi-track. It gives you more flexibility. So click OK, and here is the multi-track view. Multi-track because you have multiple different tracks where you can lay audio in and you can layer audio on top of each other and do all kinds of clever stuff. Let me give you a beginner's getting started guide to the multi-track. If you want to bring that audio you have just recorded into multi-track, you can do so by clicking and dragging across to track 1 and see how you can choose where in time on the multi-track you'd like it to be. So I'll put it right at the start. Cool things you can do, again, you can zoom by hovering over the time bar here and zooming in. And if you wanted to trim this up and make it really nice and tight, you can just hover over the start until you see you get this little handle here and pull it in. And again, scrolling along a bit to the end and get this handle at the other end and pull it in. This triangle here will fade out. That's quite good if you want a nice smooth fade on the end. And you can do the same at the start. Fade in as well. That works very nice indeed. Lots of other stuff you can do. You can change volume on things, but the best thing about multi-track is the fact that you can mix multiple audio files together. So that is my audio. Again, playback rules apply down here, hitting play or spacebar. Hello. This is Mike Russell, and there's my audio. If I'll go into here, my media browser allows me to browse my hard drive. I can go into music, and I can pick out a bit of music here, dance and electronic. Let's pick something like that, something cool. By the way, that is playing because I've got this icon highlighted, which is autoplay. If I had that switched off, which is the default, you just have to hit play here to audition a track in your media browser. But I quite like that enabled so I can audition stuff before pulling it in. Again, a simple case of dragging and dropping onto another track in multi-track. And now you've got the music on one track and the speech on the other. And that's the whole idea of multi-track view. Hello, this is Mike Russell with... As you can hear, my voice is a little bit too quiet, so then I can click on this yellow line here, put some points on like this, drag down, and that will fade down my music like so. Have a listen. Hello, this is Mike Russell with an Adobe Audition CC for Beginners Getting Started Guide. So there's a basic introduction to adding a fade onto some stuff, and of course you can double up stuff. So if I wanted to double up guide, I could Command C and then on another track Command V or Control V, which is standard copy and paste, and we've got guide. Double up on guide, and we can do something clever like move it together, and double it up again. If I want to add effects, unlike using the effects menu in waveform view, I actually have a whole effects rack here for every single channel that I'm working on in the multi-track. So say I want to add some effects to the voice, I can select track 1, and then it will tell me I'm adding effects to track 1 over here. I just drop this down and I say, okay, I want to add some compressor. A single band compressor would be nice to make the voice a little bit louder and easier to hear. So I'm going to set this up. Don't worry about the settings I'm using. If you want to get advanced into how compressors work, just check out other videos on my channel. But for now, have a listen to how it works. Hello, this is Mike Russell with an Adobe Audition CC for Beginners Getting Started Guide. And just to show you the difference between compressor on and off, I'll switch it on and off. Hello, this is Mike Russell with an Adobe Audition CC for Beginners. So as you can hear, an audio compressor really makes spoken audio in particular pop over music beds, so you can really easily hear them without the music distracting. So that is pretty much all I've got for you, apart from the fact that once you've created this beautiful audio creation inside Adobe Audition's multitrack, as a beginner, you'll probably want to mix it all down and save it out as an audio file that you can share online with your friends or to social media or as a podcast. So in order to do that in multitrack view, just going to close that effect down, and I'm going to go into the multitrack menu. I'm going to mix down session to file, entire session, which means everything here will get mixed into an audio file. Click it, it's done, and see, we're now back in the waveform view. That's the mixed creation with all the effects included. Let's play it back. Hello, this is Mike Russell. Nice compressor there, doubling up at the end. Guide. And I want to save that, so I can save this now as it's in the waveform view. I'm just going to File, Save As, and then I can give it a name, Mike Mix Mixdown, but 1.wav by default, but I can give it any other name I like Mike Final. Again, I can choose a location that I'd like to save this content to on my hard drive. Format is usually a WAV file, but you can go for MP3 or anything else. There's a number of different formats if you know what you're doing there. Sample type, as I explained before, is the same. Don't worry about format settings, they're usually fine, and usually you want to include your markers and metadata. You just click OK, and that is your file now saved as an audio file onto your hard drive, and you, as a beginner, have now pretty much, I would say, got started with Adobe Audition CC. So there you go, that concludes my Adobe Audition CC for Beginners Getting Started Guide. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this, and if you've really enjoyed it, then please do like and share this video with someone else you think would benefit. For more Adobe Audition CC tutorials, remember you can subscribe to my channel.